Hi, this is Swan with Swan Amity Studios, and today we are talking about how to get that perfect quarter inch, that perfect, elusive quarter inch. And you may have noticed, especially if you've traded blocks with somebody at some point, that the little setups that we have, the throat plate markings on our machines, are all just a little bit different from machine to machine. And if I were to drop my presser foot down on this machine, and I would see that my quarter inch marking is way out here, which to be honest is probably a whole like 1/16 of an inch off. It's not a quarter of an inch. And that creates a bigger problem, especially if we want to share our blocks, we want to trade our blocks. That becomes a little bit of an issue from machine to machine. When I was getting started with that and that was causing me some difficulties, I initially had someone say, well, get some masking tape, Swan, get out your ruler and mark a true quarter inch on your machine. I did that for a while and I just wasn't a big fan. It was something that I still really had to pay a lot of attention to. And when I am really piecing like a crazy person, I want to just feed my blocks through the machine and I want to do it very fast. I want to chain piece things through so that I can just make stacks of HSTs and get ready to go on the next project. So, we've got things to do, and watching that line was not one of them. And that's why the more I started piecing, the more I wanted something like the ideal seam gauge. So I picked up one from So Very Smooth, and you can find them at soverysmooth.com. This is magic, my friends. It makes my whole life so much easier. Now, these have been out for a little over a decade, and I love them so much that I actually own 3 iterations of the Ideal Seam Gauge because they just kept making them better. So this is the newest one. I love what it looks like. It's purple, so it's really easy for you to see all of the markings. And depending on how you press your blocks, you will either like the scant quarter inch or the true quarter inch a little bit better. One of them will appeal to you more than the other. The true quarter inch I think is great for those of you who like to press your seams open, and the scant quarter inch for those of you like me that really like to press from one side or the other are going to find that that's a little bit more successful for you. So how do you set one up? I'm going to slide it right under my presser foot here, and I'm going to line up the hole that I want. I want that scant quarter inch this time with my needle, and I'm going to drop my needle into that hole and bring my presser foot down on top of the gauge. And that's going to line up my gauge right where I want it and keep it from moving around while I attach the Ideal Seam Guide. Now, of course, the gauge would need a guide. And anytime that you buy one of these sets, if you're new to buying the Ideal Seam Gauge and Guide, I suggest you pick up the student edition. It comes with 2 guides, this one and the one that has the curved edge for curved machine piecing as well. I think they're both really handy. And what we're going to do is line up. You'll see also there's a little beveled edge on the inside there, and that's so that you can put it down and still pick it up off your machine very easily. So we're going to bring the gauge and the guide together, sliding the guide right up next to the gauge, and press down onto your machine. Now I've already removed the protective acetate from the sticky substance on the back of the guide, and so it's ready to go. It just goes right on, no problem. Now that I've got it on there, I'm ready to lift the needle and lift the presser foot and bring the gauge out of the machine. And I'm all set up. I'm ready to go. I can just go ahead and pop any of my pieces in there, bring my presser foot down, and stitch as quickly as I want to. That raised edge just really allows me to blow through all of my piecing, and I get those absolutely gorgeous, perfect every time quarter inch seam allowances. So pick up your handy dandy Ideal Seam Gauge and Ideal Seam Guide and get started piecing like a pro. This is Swan from Swan Amity Studios, and I am wishing you happy stitching.